When Mark Carney was the top banker in England, all he did was print money, caused a housing crisis, and then he left. Didn't do anything good, by the way. Now, this clip is from the Diary of a CEO. Well, we did go over this a while ago, but I did want to go over this again just to let Pierre explain the housing crisis and how it's happening. Now, before we do get into this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel, and I appreciate you guys so much for that. I also have a clip of Patty Haddu, Liberal minister, making an absolute fool of herself as well, and then a funny clip from yesterday's interview to end things. So let's get into it, and then we'll talk about it after like usual.
Okay, so this is the total amount of land in Canada,
yes,
where homes could be built. And actually,
yes,
this is quite reflective, I think, of much of the Western world,
yes,
even the UK. And this is a penny.
Yes.
Do you understand this demonstration?
Yes, I think what you're trying to say is that this is about how much land we live on.
Yes.
Yes. So Canada is a great example of this because we have 10 times as much land per person as the second closest G7 country. And yet we have the fewest homes per capita to live in. And why is that? It's because that the vast majority of the cost that goes into building a new home is not land, labor, or lumber. It's government. It's government taxes, fees, charges, bureaucracy, lobbyists, consultants. So if you think of this home here in Canada, when you buy this house, more of the money for your purchase would go to bureaucrats in office buildings than to the carpenters, electricians, and plumbers who actually build the home.
Why? How?
Because the bureaucracy has grown like any organism in nature, which seeks to survive and multiply. They give us the second slowest building permits of any country in the OECD. They charge enormous development taxes, which started out just to pay for plumbing and roads for the related housing, but now have...
That's kind of how all taxes start off, don't they? And I understand we need to pay a little bit of taxes to, build our roads, schools, hospitals, etc. But it always is like, hey, just a little bit for now. And then it turns out to be a lot forever. And now no one can build any cheap housing because it's so expensive just to even get things started. Never mind the labor, never mind the lumber, never mind how expensive everything that we use is becoming. In order to build a house that you could sell for $100,000, it would have to be a shoebox, basically. And even then, could you even get one for $100,000? Laws need to change. And notice how Mark Carney just says, hey, we're going to build. But he hasn't changed any laws regarding taxes. He hasn't shortened up bureaucracy. He hasn't shortened up wait times. He just says, we're gonna do it. Trust us, bro. That's the Liberal Party slogan. Trust me, we're going to. No, you're not. We all know you're not. Well, about 8 million people don't know that, but they will figure it out in short time.
Grown into just a huge cash cow for local governments because sales taxes still apply on most new homes. And all of that gets sponged up by government and means that we have extremely expensive housing. In fact, we are the most expensive in the G7, even though it should be dirt cheap to own a home in Canada because we have the most dirt to build on. And my goal is to remove all of that bureaucracy, have the fastest permits in the world, and make it tax-free to build homes so that everyone can afford one.
I was reading some stat that said, again, I might butcher this a little bit, but it said that Canada needs to build between roughly 450,000 new homes every single year until 2035.
Yes.
Just to restore affordability.
That's right. And we're building about 240,000 per year. So we need to roughly double our home building to do that. The good news is we have 100,000, well, it's not good news. We have 100,000 unemployed construction workers who'd be happy to pick up a hammer and start building. We have hundreds of billions of dollars of investment that's ready to do it. We have an abundance of land. What we need are fast permits and low taxes so that we can unlock that building.
What is the case for slow permits?
There isn't one.
There isn't one?
Zero. There is no benefit.
So they put up a little note here. Let me just see. Slow permitting in Canada refers to lengthy local approval processes for new housing developments. These processes can delay construction timelines and may affect housing supply and costs, alongside other factors such as interest rates, population growth, and construction expenses.
To having slow permits. They do not protect the environment. They do not protect public safety. We used to build houses a lot faster and they didn't fall down. After the Second World War, permits were almost instantaneous. We had a massive buildup of homes so that our returning veterans could have a place to live. In many neighborhoods of Canada, those homes are still standing. They have not collapsed. I'm not saying we get rid of building codes. They should all have to follow standards of environmental responsibility and be fire resistant and safe. But it shouldn't take 7 years to approve a subdivision to do that. We know how the developers know how to build according to the rules. They just need quick permits and freed up land to do it.
And that's where a lot of people will go after Pierre Poilievre, and they'll say things like, well, Pierre just wants to get rid of everything and make all these cuts. And it's like, no, what Pierre wants to do...
you think about...
Sorry. What Pierre wants to do is not get rid of codes and make just, these houses that are slapped together and they're not safe just to say he's got housing done. He's just saying it doesn't take all this time to get a couple approvals. 7 years for a subdivision. Why? Why should it take longer than 7 months? Get these things done so we can, just have the government get out of their own way, but they won't. They just make promises that they can continue to pillage this country financially. And by the time everyone realizes what they've done, oh, Mark Carney, you're bad, and we're turning on you now. He's like, all right, see ya. He's not going to care. He's going to go back to Ireland or wherever in Europe and live a very rich, wonderful life, which he does not deserve to do because he's pure evil. Now, here's Vashi giving Patty some statistics regarding the growing income inequality and youth unemployment in our country. And what does Hadu say? Touts how much better they've made EI benefits. So in other words, the solutions they've come up with are just to keep handing out money to people. This is an admission to the fact that they can't actually fix anything. That's right, they just make things worse. Let's see what old Patty has to say. Patty Cakes.
There is ample evidence that the economy and the economic benefits that the Prime Minister keeps touting are mostly benefiting the wealthy in this country. The income inequality gap, for example, was at a record level last year, the statistic that I just presented to you. And then in addition, you have in the first 2 months of this year, if you look at the 109,000 jobs that were shed, and there were some gains in March, some minimal gains, I will say, but in the first 2 months, 109,000 jobs shed, 64,000 of them were among youth. That's not just a pocket.
Look, I'm not implying that this isn't serious. That's why we've taken so many measures to protect workers who are disrupted. In fact, the EI measures that are in place right now are exactly addressing the kinds of job losses that we're seeing, in primarily tariff-affected sectors, but certainly all through supply chains. Workers, as you know, need less weeks to qualify. They also can keep separation benefits or any kind of pay owing to them. There are longer weeks available for long tenured workers, and we've topped up the labor market agreements with provinces and territories so that impacted workers have very rapid access to support from trainers to ensure that there's opportunities for them to look at new jobs that may be available in the labor market, and provinces and territories are the
what jobs that are available. All this government done or has done is make sure that we lose jobs. Bottling plants, Stellantis, and more to come.
Experts in doing that navigation. So we're there as well with the support for provinces and territories financially to be there to help those workers adjust. No one is saying this is an easy situation, but that's why the menu of supports are there in this time to help people with the boosts that they need, whether it's EI,
Yeah, okay. That was a long-winded way around saying, yeah, you're just going to have to be on EI, and hopefully we've made it better, which they haven't. Again, I've heard no announcements how they've made it better. I've heard no one say how they've made it better. So how have they made it better? Well, again, they're just going to revert to the whole, just trust me. Just trust me, bro. Trust us, guys. We've done nothing but fail for 10 years, but now the Sparkle Socks guy, the silly guy, he's gone. Now we got in a serious guy, and everyone just flocked back to the Liberal Party like a bunch of sheep that they are. Now, yesterday Pierre had an interview where Renee Rogers from CTV made an absolute fool of herself. Let me just see if I can find the clip. Yeah, it's right here, where she's talking about inflation. And even Pierre couldn't help himself but laugh. You are proposing cutting these taxes, which will increase demand and therefore inflation. And Pierre Poilievre, sorry, you're saying lowering a gas on tax will increase inflation? And this is the level of so-called journalism we're getting here in Canada.
You are proposing cutting these gas taxes, which will increase demand and therefore inflation. Why should Canadians trust your
Look at
economic
Elaine
credentials?
Sorry, I don't understand that you're framing there. You say that lowering a tax on gas will increase inflation?
Increase demand for the gas, which again could increase inflation.
Okay, that's an interesting one. I've never heard anyone saying lowering taxes on gas could possibly increase inflation.
You are.
And people will use this like, oh, he's so mean. Like, what's he supposed to say? Like, are we just supposed to allow the stupidity? This is how we have 11 years of liberal power. I know we're supposed to be nice to each other and, you know, not call each other stupid, but guess what? That's how I turned away from being a liberal. Someone just told me, hey, you're being an idiot. Look at what the liberal government has done. And look at what their moron followers think. Is that what you want to be a part of? And I was like, nope. That's a good point. Then COVID happens. Oh, they really did prove their point with that one. Look at how they acted. And that's when I also realized how many fake conservatives there are. People like Doug Ford and his supporters, they fell with the agenda, the exact same Trudeau-Carney agenda as the Liberals did, so they're just as bad. If you are actually a conservative person, we are a massive minority. That's why Pierre has to pander and, you know, be a nice guy, this nice guy sometimes, because he does need swing voters. He can't just rely off the conservative vote. He needs a lot of swing voters, and he's going to have to pander to them. And I don't like when politicians pander, but that's the way it is. But even Pierre couldn't help himself but laugh and go, I'm sorry, what did you say? It's one of the dumbest questions you'll ever hear. That's going to be it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back shortly with a new one.